this time wrote down everything on the Kevin adventure, and that's interesting because how he communicates, and he has these. I think if I could objectify this just slightly, not for the reason of getting the objective idea, but to share the idea of referencing it and being able to, let's say, recognize and then and see the intention of, and that's three-part. And this three-part coordination is very important here, and it relates to something of a vision I had inside myself that I want to share. But when I was listening to Kevin part, I was picked up by this three words, generally speaking, although he didn't do it exactly like a robotic at all, that this is different, but these three-word kind of phrases or connections that he will, so that it would be like if you read anything that had three parts to it, where instead of the three parts all being viewed, say, separately, you're actually having, well, let me describe it this way. Let's say you have three phrases, a three-word phrase, but actually you have three phrases that have three words for, let's say the left hand, the right hand, and the middle. I have one here. I'll just share it. I wrote down, be kind, be nice. This is lyrics from the song. Be true, be light or life, and be good, be pure, and be real. Okay, so whether that's exactly 3 by 3 is not important, but it is an idea of the communication, such as what Kevin was saying, which is not, was not in front of me. I'm using my book, which is a kind of a reference, all referencing guide, and I'm using it also for various projects that I'm working on, which have come to a very exciting point, peak, to say that, like climbing a mountain and being at the top, looking out in all directions. So Kevin's 3 words as an example: alien body interventions, positional, that's not a perfect one, let's see here, anchored laced ideas or anchored laced associations, religious ideas via beneficial marketing. And so that one there is a group of 3 ideas. So yes, that's pretty much what we're just sharing and describing, is these ideas and how we can communicate them. So the writing here shared, the story does extremely well. It's fantastic, really. Apocalyptic style expositions, as an example, again. And this is something that I'm recognizing this right here, and it sort of fits in with my own kind of literal, specific, relative references. I've been very good at that, and I've been able to, by doing that, discover, let's say, the solaristic universe, and here our so-called earthly reference point, human reference points, and what do you call it, spiritual reference points, or the what's called what do I call it, the scientific mind, or the psi mind, which is psychic. I mean, those terms to describe the spirit, people think it's not psychic, but really the word spirit is associated, in my view now, with the spirit mind. That's all it is the mind's wholeness. But it's not something that is the real awareness and the real revelation. So it's so easy for everyone to use their old reference point and go back to it, so that they don't advance. And our projects is to advance beyond, or to see beyond, and that's the whole value. That brings us to right where we are, and here now. No more past recognition or reference points, no future, let's say, projections or hopes. And there's another group of three: hopes, dreams, and faith or belief. And see, then that's how the religion pulls it in, and described, Kevin described that. That was very well delivered. And it's interesting because we have to use these terms, which are the terms of the dimension, and actually our real goal or point is not to get to these dimensional references and points in it, within it. So that's what's happened. My example of that is 2 days ago there was a astrological, it's actually not astrological, it's what I call solaristic, which means we have the physical dimensional 3D is in the local universe, and we call the sun, or it could be called the sun world. And but I don't want to get all distracted with all that. So just giving this reference, though, is that what happened 3 days ago, or two on the 4th and the 5th, was that the sun lines up with the center of what they call the great attractor, the center of the universe. And at the same time, Mercury is the local planet of intelligence, or consciousness, mobility, and so forth. It is retrograde with that at the same day that the Mars planet of action stopped and has gone retrograde. And there actually were at least three other events, which is of astrological, because the astrological is the local, but I'm talking about the larger field, the solar, the field of light, and the creations, there's all these words in this thing, so just references, though, because what we're getting is that something major happened or occurred that has shifted. And I know that in the relation physical, that Elon Musk, who his initials are EM, electromagnetic radiation, there was a SpaceX flight, and I saw a picture of it streaking through the sky. They had a takeoff rocket. And I remember hearing that when any of these rockets cut through the layer in the atmosphere, that it's a destructive activity or event. But nonetheless, I was just this morning saw the picture of this. So this person was categorically responsible or partially responsible for the election result. Paying people to become employees, $1 million lottery prize, he called it, but they had already chosen the possible recipients of the prize. So it's not a random activity at all, and all of the people involved are now allowed to speak out against loss of freedom of speech and gun control are two of the main issues that they're using there as their targeting module. And this person claims to have a rich person, alien awareness, and of course they're using the alien technology. So this was presented in my story way back the 20, the Exus part of it in particular, and setting up stations around the planet, which are observation posts, but also electromagnetic media projectiles or projection points. And, so this is a picture of the simulator, really, that I'm describing. And sensing. And what happened with me was that I had been able to predict the lottery extremely well. In fact, exactly the last 2 days. And even though I had shared some of this with others so that they could manifest or play, I don't think that we have had a victory, let's say, in that area. But it's funny because I will get these, but I won't play them myself, or on the day that I could play that will be victorious, I don't do it, or haven't been doing it. Partially because it's a demonstration of the wholeness of this awareness, and it's not about wanting to manifest, but we have to be creative, and this is, or at least our survival is dependent on having that creative, say, random point. And interestingly, I suppose, with this electromagnetic construct, that they were allowed to do lottery with lotteries are illegal if anyone does it besides the government. But this person did this lottery where he was giving monies to people who would go to work for him or it, and he is allowed to. The justice system said this is not a lottery in the common sense, because it's not a random choice of recipients. So it's so convoluted and inculcated that they can't see the idea that lottery of any kind is illegal if it's not being run by the government system. So now this person has gotten a position in the government with the new offices, and he is the one with the money And he's in control of how the money will be observed and regulated. And so it frees him to be able to do whatever he wants, which is exactly the point of the other candidate's position. They can do whatever they want, which is like the gun control. You're supposed to, everybody should be able to have a gun, any kind of gun. Evidently, maybe even an atomic bomb is okay in their view that they're allowing, but all they're doing is giving themselves permission and taking away permission from everyone else, because no one else can do this lottery, and because no one else is able to predict the lottery, nobody can win at it. And the thought I got about it was very simple. There's only one winner in the lottery. They're designed to only have one winner. Well, that winner is the government that is creating the vehicle. And that really is the whole point all the way around. So our individuality and its freedoms are, generally speaking, completely restricted, and whereas they should be quite the opposite, and or are naturally, but we're unable to access that if we continue with the references and the points of control and media examples. So here I got a chance to share all this in a vein that related very well with Kevin mysteries, and it's really cool. So I'd be interested to say, you could say it's really cool too, and at the same time, well, it's not so cool. It's kind of like what a PIA, pain in the ass, in that sense, but it's part of the whole process of what we're individually working towards, or anyone can work towards, this freedom and recognition, realization, or whatever terms, and use of real awareness and true attention. Okay, I'm glad I got to write all this down and share that as well. There's an entire universal field of this: sounds, light, and love is another word that kind of fits in that set, but it's more like, what was I thinking about? There was an old term in the used in the that I never understood the word, SUGMAD, submod, and or what they meant. Were they just giving God another name, or did they have something that was beyond that? It definitely is not something beyond the universal creation. So, but I was trying to understand it in some term where I could have, and what I'm finding is that I can give the creation of the universe. It is in the simulator is by signs, symbols, and sounds or signatures. And the whole form of the letters and the sounds of the words or the syllables was something that was actually created by the Indians. Didn't create it. What I meant is they discovered it, or some evolved ones, let's say. In about 1700, there was a syllabary. It's called by the Cherokees and the Iroquois shared this language. So there is a language that is observational, and it relates to a symbolic manifestation. So any word we use is referenced reality, And each one is its own reference to reality, isness. And especially important at the head of all this would be the new you currently, as a reference of a word that is that one or sound word that gives us the access and accessibility beyond, or the maybe for another time I could try and grasp how to share that, but that is something amongst all these other things. Highlight, of course, the great, it would be like the great attractor at the physical consciousness, rather, that we could use, reflective of that universal center point that these, yes, the planetaries and the stars and the sun lined up with. Funny wise, I'm laughing because Mercury's retrograde. It means it's going backwards. It's going against the flow. It's resisting or being resisted, and it wasn't recognized by anyone. Even though I shared this with something about 2 days ago, when Val and I talked, and we had that put on the Skype of our sharing about this. That I hadn't actually even realized the whole of it while we were talking, that I didn't know that this event was going on. I had not observed it myself. And, so in retrospect, we get a lot of things seen in new light. And that's why it's good to do some of that. You want to see, well, what caused this, or you, by recognizing it, we immediately change it. So that's why past, present, future, it's all here in this one present. And it can change immediately by our recognition of a viewpoint. And the new generation now is what I'm saying, that we have a generation of the new ages, the old ages of Zeus, or whatever, how we describe it, will probably be said in 3 different ways, just like everything else. So we always have this choice. Are we going to do the physical senses observation? We're going to do a mental / emotional body reference, or are we going to see with the real awareness in an intuitional sense? As an example, again, we always have the choice of which of these 3, so I'm glad I got to bring that together here, relative again to Kevin's choice phrase, or these phrases that were shared, look for it, but it really doesn't matter. But, he said a few other things, like training humanity's enslaved species to dominate, subjugate, or torture, personal self-idea constructions, the death sacrifice, and I guess there's probably a 3rd word in that idea, generated ideas, by the surface appeal of the religion or other beneficial, let's call it metaphysical, so-called beneficial marketing ploys and plans, agendas. So it seems like this is very complicated, and a lot of people, like my example share, I tried to share the number system to a picture that I created to the number list that would be winners, and it was absolutely perfect. I didn't get the actual values out to others in the way that it would look perfect to them. And what happened was a close family person in my life said that they don't understand it at all. How do I look at this? How do I understand this? And I could write back to him and say, it's really not a literal mind cannot get it. And all you got to do is observe and then use your intuitional senses, which I found I need to do, even though I've got this picture in front of me that says, here it is. Yes, it's not actually the picture that we're looking at. It's looking through it. So I wrote down one more 3, which was there's the great attractor, the grand designer, and the cow influence. Those are the 3 gods. And we recognize that, and we get these terms, gods and spirits and souls and star suns and solarians, that we are of is not it. So my own transcriptions here are, yes, my own. And so it's the same thing. How much of this will I allow, or do we allow to be something like observing there was an experience that was shared with seeing the grid in the sky. My wife saw this a number of times, and I was aware of this grid from 20 years ago in the book DS&E about the Exus, and the grid appears to everyone around the world on New Year's Eve. And so I was now bringing this full circle because this New Year's Eve, I don't know that's exact, but I think that in terms of the opportunity of the reference point, I think this entire end of this year and what's been happening and going into next is this kind of establishment. And the new aegis is here, but the establishment is working to make it their own and their under control and their vision, worldwide agenda, and instead of what it really could be or is, the wake-up call. Okay, I think I'm going to stop now. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Peter. Thank you. Thank you.
Take a deep breath. Breathe through your nose. Get a spoonful of honey and sing New Year.
Thank you. And go to Ronald. Do you have anything today, Ronald?
Yes, I have just a short comment. In my dream state last night, I was in I guess, standing before this bunch of these clothes racks. And for some reason, I guess I was going to deliver this suit. And I looked at it, it's a blue suit. And I thought that I knew where it was going to go or who it was going to go to. And then when I got outside, I looked at it and there was a name tag, but the name tag was illegible. So I felt sort of guilty about having this thing. And I thought maybe I need to take it back and put it back on the rack and then chicken out. And so that's all I had. Anyway, there you go. Thank you.
Any thoughts on that? Did you have any thoughts on that?
Not well. Now that I started to think about it today, I'm not sure what I have an idea of what it could be, but I'm I don't want to say it because it could be wrong. I don't know. Anyway, there it is. Your guess is as good as mine, I guess.
Okay, maybe we'll come back to that one.